Well, good afternoon, everybody. A very warm welcome to a rain-swept Christie Park for a meeting of two of the competition's early surprise packets. Table-topping Spirit FC hosting the Sutherland Sharks in round 8 of the NPL New South Wales Men's. Alex Molchanoff delighted to be along with you on the Football New South Wales YouTube page this afternoon. And, well, what a start it's been for Spirit. Unbeaten in 7 to start the season, including their last 5 here at home in the league. Led by their fearsome new Japanese duo of Yua Kubo and Takumi Ifuka. Bigger tests ahead of them in the next month, but a win here would leave them 7 points clear of 2024 Premiers Marconi, who kick off later tonight. Very different situation for Steve Zorich's Sharks from last year. A 3-1 win here in July, all but secured their survival in this competition. In 2025, their sights are set higher, sitting 8th coming into the afternoon and knowing an upset would push them into 4th, with some stars like Daniel Wong making their way back from injury. They're hoping they can carry the good form they've shown so far to another big result this evening. Let's look at how they plan to do it. The team news as follows. Spirit make just a solitary change from their 1-0 win last Friday night at Cromer Park against Manly United. Chris Marks resumes in goal behind a back 3, which includes that lone change. Brady Smith in for Grant Cornwall this afternoon. Jamie Pasewski and Simon Nicholas alongside him. The wing-backs are Zain Alawalia and Jordan Perez. A midfield 4 of Corey Kavanagh, Frankie Lucevic, Jake Chidiak and Takumi Ifuka, with last weekend's hero, Yua Kubo, leading the line again. For Sutherland, a 1-0 win. It was a scrappy affair against the Central Coast Mariners, but just the one change for Coach Zorich as well. Daniel Nizic stays in goal behind their back 4 of number 2, Lachlan McDonald, number 26, Jake Garner, number 6, Mohamed, and number 20, Jake Tresoglovic, who got his first senior goal last week in that win. A midfield 3 for the Sharks of number 21, Jerry Skatadis, number 15, Matt Morich, and number 7, Peter Grozos. A front 3 of Mason Fernandez, Daniel Wong, and Richard Shueke. Well, despite not being a clash of the traditionally biggest rivals, this game's had a fair bit of feeling in it over the past couple of seasons. Combined 5 red cards across the 2 matches a year ago. Hoping referee Joel Crawford has a slightly quieter afternoon. I want both sets of teams to finish with 11 men at the end of today. We're expecting an open attacking contest. 2 teams that have been noticeably more proactive in their football in 2025 and are reaping the rewards for it. Sharks have been a little bit more up and down because of a little bit of an injury malaise that has overcome the club, but the youngsters like Tresoglovic and Richard Shueke is leading the line again here. Started this season very, very well in replacing them. Biggest of those injuries, Costa Petratos unfortunately out for the season with an ACL. His brother Maki is fit enough to come back in against Rockdale Illingdon a couple of weeks ago, but he's been given a couple more weeks rest just to make sure he's ready and fit to go. Sharks know they're going to face a stern defensive examination over the course of the 90 minutes here. Christie Park has grown pretty quickly. It's one of the hardest grounds to visit in this competition, and there's an early chance here for its residents. Jordan Perez has made a bright start to life in Spirit colours, has been present for almost every minute, and you can see the intricate build-up already beginning for Spirit inside the first couple of minutes. Perez wanted a number of astute pickups for Spirit in the off-season. There was a fair bit of squad turnover, but they've taken no time to gel. Great to see the homegrown talent, 23-year-old Corey Kavanagh, taking the captain's armband in the absence of Grant Cornwall today. Available off the bench if he's needed for a little bit of added defensive stability, but that's not something Spirit have needed until later in games. Free-flowing attacking play that characterised the start to their season has been a little looser over the past couple of weeks. Took until the 95th minute to find an equaliser. Now, last game here against Sydney United, helped out by a red card to Patrick Anselmi. About 20 minutes to go in that one. One goal from Yua Kubo last weekend came during Spirit's best period of the match. Manly United in the ascendancy for long periods of that first half, but Spirit managed to absorb the pressure and then took the opportunity when it fell their way. If I can seal another 3 points, as we mentioned in the intro, that buffer is just going to grow a little bit bigger for them. Here's Brady Smith, who's been brought in for his first start since back in round 3. A 3-0 win over Apia Leichhardt away at Lambert Park, one of the biggest early season shocks. Result which David Perkovich, speaking to Football New South Wales Kickoff podcast, said was maybe the moment that the side really believed that they could go on and challenge for silverware again this season. Already picked up one very big piece of silverware, the Waratah Cup back in 2022. Premiership or a championship would, you think, be sat on slightly higher rung of their trophy cabinet. Club born after the ashes of Northern Spirit in the old NSL. Licence taken on by the Gladesville-Hornsby Association. Living up to the name. It's Chidiac fires in the first shot of the afternoon. Nizic was comfortable. It was travelling wide of his post, but promising start from Spirit. Landed them their first opportunity of the first half. Chidiac found himself regularly in good shooting situations last weekend. In for the still injured Michael Cottestabo. Not fit enough for the squad again today. The floodlights come on here at Christie Park. Been wet conditions across Sydney to start the weekend. Thankfully, the rain has stayed away for the start of this men's kickoff. Women's game was being rained upon for the first half or so. Men getting rather dry conditions. In fact, almost perfect conditions for football. Just a little bit of surface water on this artificial pitch at Christie Park. Olawale, I don't know whether he was trying to win his side to throw there, but Drasoglovic was clever enough to pull his foot out of the way. What a stunning rise he's had into the first team. Made his starting debut against Rockdale Illingdon a couple of weeks ago and then got his first senior goal. Rising highest from a corner last weekend against the Central Coast Mariners, and that was the difference in that game. Jake Garner stretching for one as Afuka is there to apply the pressure, and then Skatadis bundles over Fernandez. Both were going for the same ball. Breaks for Perez on the left, not his best delivery. Easily fielded by Nizic, who's seeing a little bit more of that football than he'd like in the early stages. One note in the head-to-head coming into the afternoon is that Spirit have yet to beat the Sharks in league football. Did manage to get a win against them in the Australia Cup, their first season up in the top tier of New South Wales football, winning that game by 2-0 at Seymour Shaw, but that's still the only victory they've had since their promotion back in 2022. Mentioned the fractious nature of the games between these two a season ago. It's highlighted 0-0 draw in round 2, a game that was otherwise pretty unremarkable, and the fact Jake Chidiac struck the crossbar that day. Sutherland had 2 players sent off. Two players no longer at the club, in fact. Jonty Bush and Max Green. Simon Nicholas, who's on the ball, was also sent off that day. He's barely missed a minute since that for Spirit. Been one of the first names on the team sheet and what has been a Fantastic start to his career over the first 3 seasons in yellow and black. Interchanging passes with Kavanagh, just in the attacking side of halfway. And Aluwali has got a bit of space to exploit down the right. Face-to-face with Trosoglovic. Delivery was dangerous. Moric back to mop up, and then Trosoglovic hoists it high rather than far away. Nicholas always physical and a little overzealous in his challenge there. Mentioned the task that Joel Crawford's got on his hands, one of the younger referees across the NPL New South Wales. Sure, he's aware of that history, and we'll just want to keep a lid on things in the early stages of this one. Shweke chasing down Simon Nicholas. He's filled the boots of the Petratos brothers, who were expected to interchange really as the lone striker at the start of the season for Sharks. It's just been their injury bothers that Shweke has taken that opportunity. He's one who chases down lost clauses, and as he showed against Rockdale a couple of weeks ago in putting Sutherland 2-1 ahead that night. He's got a cool head on young shoulders as well. Experience of Daniel Wong up alongside him will be a helping hand this afternoon as Chidiac slithers his way free of Jerry Skotadis. Another player who can cover plenty of ground. Couple of players losing their footing as it finds its way to Akubo. Noah Fuka. Perez on his less favoured right. Right to the feet of Akubo. Can't afford him too much space in there. It was a good block by Garner at the vital moment. Still the danger not clear for Sutherland though. And Trosoglovic with a beautifully timed challenge to knock it off Chidiac and make sure his side won a pressure relieving throw. Good tempo to the opening 9.5 minutes of this game. Certainly not been all hands on deck in terms of attack in the early stages, but both teams just prompting and probing the other. Mentioned Shweke's goal against Rockdale a couple of weeks ago. Peter Grozos got a quite spectacular equaliser, his first competitive goal for the club. Free kick which left Rockdale's goalkeeper Nick Soros stationary. Benton sliced its way through the air from the best part of 30 yards, so Spirit will be aware of the set-piece threat that Sutherland offer as well this afternoon. Shweke coming all the way into midfield. In fact, it's Mason Fernandez there, drifting in off the right. Once Wanderers Academy product. This Jerry Skotadis, a veteran of some 50 games or more in the A-League men's. It's actually his second stint at the club, Skotadis. Spent a little bit of time here before entering the A-League with, or re-entering the A-League with Western United and then the MacArthur Bulls. Shweke down the left. To get in on his right, easily dealt with by Pasevsky, who's been the rock on which Spirit's sturdy defence has sat to this point in the season. Leader of that back three. Berkovic also revealing that terrific chat with Teo Pellizzeri and Annabelle Banfield a couple of weeks ago that it's the first time he's coached a team to play in this formation. Might be wondering why he didn't take it up sooner, given their strong start to this season. Skotadis lobbing this one forward. Lockie McDonald has had a terrific start to the year. Fernandez, well, he looked as though he was still deciding whether to cross that ball for Shweke or shoot himself. Mention those Sharks out. We mentioned the two Petratoses, Takahide Umabachi sighted below us, along with Ike Hode, Ruben Awara-Tife. Still a few troops yet to be called on for the Sharks. in the second month of the season. Perez with his second crossing opportunity of the afternoon. Hasn't quite looked as tidy as he has in the opening 2 months. Player was actually with Sutherland back in 2018 for making his move overseas to play a little bit of football in Spain in his native Cyprus. Well, I should say his father's native Cyprus. Had a chance to get down the left here, but just bundled off it by McDonald. Donald's one of those who's been in and around A-League academies with the MacArthur Bulls. Scrap for it in midfield, falls for Spirit. Kubo trying to make something of it, and then Chiriak just missed timing his challenge on Skatatis. Given all the injury woes for Sutherland in the early season, the turnaround in their goal-scoring form has been quite remarkable given all that. They've got some defending to do first before they can turn their focus forwards. Lovely switch of play from Kavanagh to Aluwalia. Now Lucevic, the American. For the native Hornsby boy, Corey Kavanagh. Wide for Perez. Initial cross scrapped away. Brady Smith is there to keep the attack alive, and now Aluwalia has his chance, and Kubo's free! And given his early form, you'd expect him to score from there. Completely unmarked, beautifully picked out by Aluwalia, but couldn't finish it off. Biggest chance of the opening quarter of an hour goes begging. And Kubo, despite not being the biggest, is renowned around the competition for his ability in the air. Made that name for himself at Hills United over the past couple of seasons. That's how so many of his goals have come. Can Sutherland make Spirit pay full? Wong's deflected cross. Pasewski the only one up for it. McDonald. Fernandez trying to turn into space that wasn't there. Kavanagh did well to keep it in, and the Standard Spirit captain is happy just to build from the back. Chris Marks, who's taken on extra coaching duties along with his first grade football responsibilities at Spirit FC this season. Charge of improving the youth goalkeeping. It's always set up in this level of football that generally goes well. You can go all the way up to the A-League men's, where players like Eugene Kolekovic are still around, Liam Reddy. Maybe the tip of that iceberg is John Crawley, the Socceroos goalkeeping coach under Graham Arnold, who has got a slate of goalkeepers throughout his career have gone on to bigger and better things. Danny Vukovic, Buddy Ryan. Chris Marks hoping to have a similar effect here in Sydney's northwest. It's opposite keeper Daniel Nizic clearing the football. Pasewski back into a midfield area. Sloppy touch from Trisoglovic, but he stuck with it. Shaweke showing his quickness of foot and of thought. Wong. Lovely little 1-2 with Grozos, and he's away here, Daniel Wong. Back in the team. Can he be back in the goals as well? Bends it towards Marks, who saw it all the way. David Perkovic up from his seat for the first time this afternoon. I can tell you it won't be the last. Barking instructions to his side, who surprisingly lead the competition after 7 games. Surprisingly, only on the form from a season ago, not from the level of performance they put up in 2025, that's for sure. Already knocked over Blacktown City and NPL Leichhardt away from home. In fact, their away form has actually matched their home form over the last 6 months or so. Seem to keep going to big clubs and taking points off them. It was results against a team like Sutherland a season ago, which cost them a chance at really propelling themselves higher up the table. They've made no such mistakes in season 2025 to this point. Kavanagh to lob in a set piece. Pasevsky's waiting at the back post, and Nizic got under him, but it was swept off the line by Wong. And Sutherland survive another early scare. Spirit right on top in the early stages. Nicholas bending it for Akubo. I just can't deal with him at the moment. And off there is Frankie Lucevic, who's bearing down. Great save from Nizic. Wonderful interplay again in the final third from Spirit, just missing its final touch. And sporting from Daniel Nizic, who was very aware of the plight of Lucevic after he made his way through. Very good save from the Sutherland goalkeeper. He's a mountain of a man, spreading himself, making the angle almost impossible to get through. The ball deflecting back off Lucevic and out of play. Through the centre of the park, though, Sutherland are really struggling to deal with the threat offered by Akubo and Afuka particularly. Alawali has already sent in a good cross for Akubo, which he's headed wide. Just saw Daniel Wong sweep one off the goal line. And then the one-on-one from Lucevic, well saved by Daniel Nizic. So, a bit to absorb for Sutherland in the early stages, but largely thanks to their goalkeeper, they've been able to do that. Players taking on an impromptu drinks break of sorts. Spirit, as we've seen them do plenty of times throughout the season. You saw that on the coverage, coming together during a stoppage in play. Just have a discussion about what's going well, what's not. Got a couple of chances for Richard Shueke to get off the shoulder. Daniel Wong similarly, yet to create a clear-cut chance. And a real worry for Chris Marks in the Spirit net. Frankie Lucevic was called back on almost before he was ready by the referee there. He's got the knee strapped up. Might have got a little bit of a graze. It's not nice going down onto limbs on these artificial surfaces. Legs and the mind's willing again for the American midfielder. Shueke, who's been the centre of everything Sutherland have done going forward in the early stages. Can't wriggle his way clear of 2 or 3 there. We're meant to have one game scheduled earlier today. The clash between Sydney Olympic and the Central Coast Mariners at Belmore Sports Grounds postponed due to the state of the field and the amount of water that we've had in Sydney over the last 24 hours. No such problems at Marconi, who are set to take on the Western Sydney Wanderers just before the conclusion of this one tonight. 7 o'clock kick-off, and then the match of the round in the NPL New South Wales, the St George Derby, down at Penshurst Park between City and St George FC. Both have made bright starts to their season. That's going to be a tasty little one to watch. I'll focus firmly here, though, where Spirit have dominated the early exchanges and looking to get forward down the right again. Akubo's there! And just scrapes it wide of the post. Might have taken a lick of paint with it. Again, it was Alawalia and Chidiak who did the intricate work down the right. Beautiful dummy from Takumi Afuka. He and Akubo have struck up an almost immediate understanding. There's 2 of the front 3. Michael Conestabo and Chidiak have generally occupied the other flank. But it's the two Japanese forwards who really are causing headaches up and down the leg. Trasoglovic's clearance was just affected by Alawalia. Spirit full of enthusiasm. Fernandez providing the outlet. Perez beating McDonald to the ball and knocking him off his feet as well. Fuka's touch betraying him, but then Perez takes up the attack. McDonald with a sloppy touch. Can he find the telling cross? Ahmed flicking it up rather than out. Nizic got a paw to it. And then eventually scrapped clear, I think, by Jerry Skitadis. All hands on deck defensively for the Sharks. Gone through a change of ownership in the off-season, which has been well publicised. Kavanagh searching for Akubo's head again. Couldn't retrieve it, but Smith got something on it. Lucevic for Afuka. He and Akubo linking up. And it was Chidiak trying to bend one in. McDonald back to make the block. Raid after raid being put together on Sutherland's goal in the early stages. Perez. Kavanagh. Dancing past two. Brilliant feat from Corey Kavanagh. A good recovery from Moric, who might have just collected a Spirit midfielder. Nizic again sportingly checking on the fitness of his opponent and was happy to release once he was satisfied that Kavanagh was going to be able to get back to his feet. Sutherland just get a moment's peace as they bring the ball out of their own half. Two chances to Iwakubo turned up in the opening 25 minutes. I don't think that was the line I was expecting to bring out in commentary today. Spirit looking comfortable with the flow of the game at the minute, though. It's down to the Sharks to turn the tide. Let's work from Skitadis to find Shueke. Gets it back off Grozos. Not too many yellow shirts near him either. Wong was trying to get his head on the ball. Crucial intervention from Perez and then through a forest of Spirit bodies from Skitadis, but always headed wide of Marks' net. Slick surface, which is just catching a couple of the players out. It's not one you can bring the screw-in studs out on either. It's got to be aware of your footing. Spirit wanted a free kick as that ball was played forward. Yeah, they hear that in our FX mic. We are right on top of the two technical areas here at Christie Park, so you get a good feel for what's coming out of both technical areas, as well as any commentary that I'm adding. Games get particularly intense, as they did here between these two last year. Sometimes feels like we've got three commentators in the box. McDonald assessing his options here. Sharks have thrown some numbers forward, so chance to create something. He has got the long throw in his locker, Lockie McDonald. Not much of a run-up possible here at Christie Park, but he's picked out Wong. Still trying to get a shot away on the turn. Wald hurried and harassed by Smith as he tried to turn and shoot. Now Akubo can provide that ability to release for Spirit. Pasevsky. A player known for his ball-playing ability, but such is the function of the back three that often means he doesn't have to do too much of that. Can be left to Brady Smith and Simon Nicholas, who for the last 2 or 3 seasons has had one of the best pass completion rates in the competition. A team that hasn't always been playing possession-based football. That was a nice ball from Pasevsky. Kubo wide for Ahluwalia. This is Spirit in full flight as we saw early in the season. Haven't seen quite as much of it over the past couple of weeks. Lucevic for Kavanagh. Look how gorgeous and intricate this play is. Can Lucevic finish it off? He plays it out for Perez, floating it deep. Ahluwalia hesitates and then gets to the byline, and Tresoglovic took 2 bites to clear it. Well, the Spirit players raining down on him. Did well to knock it clear. As has been the case for most of the opening half hour, the danger is not gone yet for Sutherland. Kavanagh. Ahluwalia. Another floaty cross. Chidiak's good in the air, and he got above McDonald, but didn't get the power on the header. Straight at Nizic. So the weight goes on. The pattern of this game well and truly established. Not sure Spirit are yet to beat Sutherland in league football, but I've had a pretty good goal scoring record. It's been down the other end that they've had the issues against the Sharks. Katara Katsuta is off the bench today for Sutherland. He's returned to the squad for the first time since being sent off against Sydney Olympic. Was the hero here in July, getting a brace. Nice bit of talent to have in reserve for Steve Zorich this afternoon. Might need to turn the tides sooner rather than later. Matt Moric is trying to do that by himself. Slaloming through players and going down under the challenge of Smith too easily for referee Joel Crawford. Had no hesitation in pointing for a goal kick rather than a few yards shorter to the penalty spot. Just a couple of minutes where Sutherland have been able to establish their own foothold in this game, and that's got David Perkovic back up at the edge of his technical area. Good challenge from Moric, sliding in on a hesitant Lucevic, and Grozos firing away wildly. Little off balance, and Brady Smith is not one you want to be waiting for to slide in on yet. Moric making the most of the slick surface. Flew across it. Nicked the ball off Frankie Lucevic. Kubo just giving Garner a little shove in the back. Moric has grown into this first half. Another one of those, plenty out there have been through A-League academies with the Melbourne Victory. Spirit nicking it off him and through midfield. And that really has been the pattern of the game. Spirit, a team that like to lure their opposition into little traps across the pitch. As Moric falling victim to it there. Smith. Ahluwalia for Lucevic. Nice bit of skill. He's had a bright start to this game, the American. As is Ahluwalia. Kubo used an arm to control. Might have been right on the borderline. Now Moric who threw the ball into the Japanese striker rather than to Jacob Garner. Daniel Nizic just pointing to his head, asking his team to give him their fullest concentration as we approach half-time. Have been second best in the first half, but the scoreboard still sits where they are right in this one. Perez. Chidiak. Well done by Skitadis, and his effort to get across draws some applause from the Sharks technical area. Deeper to give himself some room and hit a switch for Perez. Wicked ball in. Garner did well to get his head to it. Shueke did well, nicking it off the toe of Kavanagh, and Moric can drive forward again. Shueke's got plenty of pace, but Nicholas probably ahead in the foot race. The ball still reaches him. A chance for Sutherland to try and build something. Shueke happy to take the deflection off Nicholas and out for an attacking throw for Sutherland. Just another moment of peace for the visitors. Front of those warming up for them. See Dylan Susovic, the experienced head of Jordan Roberts. Throwing over everyone in blue. And we found the head of Pasevsky. Skitadis is covering a lot of ground in these early stages. The heartbeat of Sutherland's midfield. He and Moric going into this game, must be said. Spirit, who did have it all their own way for the first half hour, that started to flip as we approach the break here. Christie Park, a reminder as it sits, Spirit 4 points clear of Marconi coming into today's action. Win would take them 7 points clear before Marconi kick off this evening. Yet to find the breakthrough here, despite a couple of chances to Iwakubo. You heard a whistle through our effects mics. That was coming from the pitch behind us. And then Zayn Alawali has just kicked the ball away, so Joel Crawford's going to say, won't be having any more of that, thanks. Now everybody takes the opportunity to come in and surround the referee. Says, let's get on with it. Skitadis. Stephen Zoric is just making a point to Mason Fernandez that they're panicking a little bit today. You could say the same of Skitadis there as Lucevic bore down on him. Has had this game a bit of a look like both the games a week ago to these sides, which started with one team heavily in the ascendancy in the opening half hour before it sort of petered out towards the end of the half. Spirit trying to make sure that doesn't go against them this time. Afuka. Like to find a goal before the break rather than just let it sit at 0-0. Lucevic, quite a bit of space for Spirit to try and exploit through the middle of the park here. Kavanagh. Nicholas had half a thought of lining up. Now he thinks better and finds Perez. Goes along the ground with his cross. Didn't beat Jake Garner, who always seems well positioned. He's had to absorb a lot of pressure. The heart of Sutherland's backline over the past few seasons. Always takes to that task. He and Mohamed have been the new defensive partnership. Garner wasn't fit for the start of the season, but has come straight back in once he has been available. The game has literally slowed to walking pace now. Nicholas for Afuka, who's sort of frittered around the edges of this game. Set up one beautiful opportunity for Iwakubo with a dummy. Inside the opening 25 minutes. See how much space Sutherland are giving Spirit until they really press into their defensive half. And now they're going to try and spring forward and counter-attack. Pasevsky a little loose. Did well to recover after turning it over. Spirit numbers haven't stayed forward though, so Alawali is going to have to be precise. He was that. Kubo trying to A little bit of flair with a back heel for Takumi Afuka. Usually it's the other way around between those two. Solid collision right along the touchline. Lucevic has not only won out in the challenge, but he's won inside the throw. And for those of you watching through the Football New South Wales YouTube channel this afternoon, a very warm welcome to you on this Saturday evening. Got a couple of games following this one. Marconi taking on the Western Sydney Wanderers out at Marconi Stadium at 7 o'clock, and St George City hosting St George FC. Full slate of fixtures tomorrow that I'll take you through shortly. Daniel Wong has won it back for Sutherland through the middle of the park. He's not afraid of having a crack from distance. Plays it off for Moric, and now Fernandez. Wong had continued his run into the area, but Nicholas read the danger. Made the interception. Garner's forced to head out on halfway. Those games tomorrow. Blacktown City hosting Manly United at 3 o'clock. Apia Leichhardt taking on Rockdale. A battle of third and fourth as we sit here this afternoon. And Wollongong Wolves taking on Sydney United 58. A battle of two teams that will be taking part in the Australian Championship at the end of the year. Sydney FC versus Mount Druitt Town Rangers, the nightcap. We've got a quintet of NPL New South Wales women's games to take in across the Football New South Wales YouTube channel as well, if you're not all footballed out by Sunday nights. Spirit FC and Illawarra Stingrays drawing 0-0 in the women's fixture that preceded this one this afternoon. Trisoglovic, full of confidence after that goal last week. Skatadis, probably the Sharks' player of this first half. Ahmed, who we've barely noticed, which for a centre-half is usually a better thing. Garner and Moric and Grozos. But he just retained possession. Sutherland have looked to slow the tempo when they have had it. Garner. It's there for Moric, and now there is space for Mason Fernandez inside. Again looking to try and do the unselfish thing, but turning it over. Skatadis wins it back. And he did very well there, Jerry Skatadis, without much support. Manages to nip the ball away from Frankie Lucevic and draw a little bit of a loose challenge. Goes over the leg, and now we're in the range of Peter Grozos. Brother Costa, of course, is in the A-League men's at the moment with the Newcastle Jets. Became a very young captain of that club. Peter's got every bit the technical ability, particularly from these dead ball situations. And so there is no air of deception and over. Who's going to strike this free kick? Almost a mirror image of the one he scored at Rockdale. That was from the other side. He whips this one in towards Marks, who saw it all the way. Handled it nicely. Nicholas for Lucevic. Kubo dropping deep, and now Smith. Beautiful switch for Perez. Even better ball for Afuka, who should have scored, or at least forced a save from Nizic. A third clear chance for Spirit in this first half. Not been able to take one. Such has been their ascendancy. They haven't really looked at threat of being punished down the other ends, but gee whiz, I'd like to have had one of those end up in the back of the net just to give them the reward that they've earned for their play in the first half. Again turned over cheaply by Fernandez. He's not had the best of first halves. Can Perez punish him? For the lobbed option rather than something more striking and direct. A bit of a cheap free kick given away by Grozos, who didn't need to go in on Lucevic there. Wasn't going anywhere. Grozos arguing his case, but wasn't really much of one there for him to defend himself with. A little clip of the heels. Spirit might be able to find the moment of magic before half-time. Just two in the wall for Sutherland. One of 5 Spirit players along the edge of Sutherland's 18-yard box. Perez over to swing this one in. Ahmed got the initial header. Skatatis tidying up. And then well won back by Lucevic. They just can't get out of their own half in those situations frequently enough to worry Spirit. Kubo heading it goalwards. Kavanagh trying to keep it up there. He's a physical boy. Oh, and that was a nasty challenge from Skatatis right in front of the referee. The first booking of the afternoon. It did go down awkwardly there. Corey Kavanagh as that challenge went in. A little bit of a naughty one from Jerry Skatatis. Just stretching. It was out of desperation rather than malice, but the booking well deserved. Just hope, because there's a little bit of an extra slide out of the leg, and always have your heart in your mouth as a football watcher when that sort of thing happens. Bit of an injury-riddled 2024 as well, Corey Kavanagh, so be hoping it's nothing too serious. Physio straight out with him. He's up talking fairly amicably with Joel Crawford, the referee, so I think we could take that as a good sign. See Jordan Perez has a wry smile on his face. I think that would suggest that his teammate's all right. Also that he's almost got a free kick in position A1 here. You pick the ball up and place it at the training ground to hit a couple of free kicks. This is exactly where you do it. Just enough space to get it up and down over the wall. All down injured. We've had our 4th official, Rory McFarlane, tell us there's going to be 3 minutes of time added on at the end of the first half. Spirit will be hoping the ball ends up in the back of Sutherland's net across that 3 minutes. Can the Sharks hold out for a little longer? It's a lengthy wall that they've put together. Thinking about a 7th. Goodness me. There are 6 in that wall for Daniel Nizic by my count. Jacob Trosoglovic towering over everybody. It's going to take something special. Oh! Jordan Perez pulls it out. Why go over when you can go around? It skids off the turf and nestles in the back of the net. Superb start to the first half for Jordan Perez, and he capped it with a goal. And look what it means to him. His first for the club. And he's got a smile that might cover all of his own half. As clever in its execution as it was brilliant. And Daniel Nizic, despite all those players in his wall, couldn't keep it out. And it's a goal that Spirit have well and truly deserved for their performance in this first half. They have put wave after wave of attack together. And the Sharks' defence have held out gamely, but it's not been a performance that has matched certainly their last 2 outings. And they pushed Rockdale all the way and beat the Mariners last weekend fairly comfortably, despite just getting that lone goal. And in the shadows of half-time, Jordan Perez has given Spirit something to protect. Scotardis, it was a little bit wishy-washy about what Sutherland were going to do, perhaps feeling a bit of time pressure with the break looming, and Perez, who's buoyed by his goal, knocks it out of play from the foot of Lockie McDonald. Grozos can be the difference maker, but he's just looking for the moment where he can make the biggest impact. Scotardis, as Schweiker lost his footing, felt he was affected by Pasewski, who had just been a little sharper on his feet in that situation, with a couple of step overs, and lays it back for Scotardis. Awkward height for Perez, so he had to go with his thigh. Not the best for distance, but enough to give Spirit the lead in the first half. That left leg of Jordan Perez, a skidding strike, but slid off the turf and past Daniel Nizic from the set piece, won by Corey Kavanagh. And Spirit's pressure eventually paid after two chances turned up by Yu Akubo and then one by Takumi Afuka. A couple of sharp saves from Daniel Nizic amongst that, but he was beaten just before the break. And so, as we head to the sheds here at Christie Park, it's table-topping Spirit FC who lead the Sutherland Sharks by 1-0.
Scores from around the grounds, there aren't any because the game between Sydney United and Sydney Olympic and Central Coast was abandoned due to weather.
Welcome back to Christie Park, the second half of this round 8 clash between Spirit FC and the Sutherland Sharks. Spirit taking the lead just before halftime. A brilliantly struck free kick from Jordan Perez, which skimmed off the turf and slid past Daniel Nizic into the back of his net. After a stern resistance from the Sharks over the opening 45 minutes, their wall was eventually broken. Can they find a way to battle back into this one? Spirit have had the upper hand in most of general play. Yua Kubo turning up a couple of good opportunities, along with one for Takumi Afuka. In response, the Sharks have struggled to fire a shot in anger. See if any changes come through the beginning of this second stanza. Steve Zorich would have been heartened by the defensive resilience that his side showed in the first half, less so by the football that they were playing. Can Jerry Skatatis and Peter Grozos drive them forward in the second half? That will be the question as they chase this game. Alex Molchanoff along with you on the Football New South Wales YouTube page for the second half. Delight to be sharing your Saturday afternoon with you. The artificial light begins to take over from the natural stuff, and this is not a good sign for Sutherland in the early stages. Concerns about the welfare of Daniel Wong. Been in and out of the side with injury. Came on at half-time in the 1-0 win against the Central Coast Mariners last weekend. This is his first start since that big loss against Sydney Olympic up at Valentine Sports Park. After such a bright start to the season, just getting confirmation of the one change. That was made at half-time by Sutherland. Just confirm that. Yes, Kataru Katsuta, the hero here for Sutherland on their last visit, scoring a brace to win that game by 3-1, has been brought on at half-time in place of Mason Fernandez. Didn't have his best first half performance, but now with Daniel Wong coming off as well, it looks as though Steve Zorich's two starting wingers are going to be out of action just minutes into the second half. Not a good sign as they chase this game. It's been a little bit of a formational change here for Sutherland as well. They've gone to the back five. Interesting decision as they chase this game, but Matt Moric is now being deployed at left wing back. Jacob Tresoglovic moving in alongside Mohammed and Jake Garner in the centre of the field. Another change to come here soon as Spirit continue where they left off at the end of that second half. Putting plenty of pressure on the Sharks' backline, this time down the left, and Perez has managed to win his side an early corner at the start of the second half. Temperatures just dropped a couple of degrees over the break. Slight bit of rain starting to return as well. It's going to make it a cool evening here at Christie Park. Not quite the temperatures that have labelled the Arctic Circle over the last 3 or 4 seasons, but it's getting that way as Kavanagh rises. It was a glancing header in the truest sense. Quite the purchase to steer it on target. Now that change to be confirmed. Nick Sullivan being brought on for Wong. Looks as though he's going into the central striking position as well. Shaking hands with his former teammate Jamie Pasewski. Richard Shueke moving back into a midfield role, so it really has been a rejuggle from Steve Zorich over the half-time break. Just as it looked as though some of those injury worries were going to start to go away. Off comes Daniel Wong again. Just wonder if so little are the options for the Sharks at the moment, but trying to pull players back as quickly as possible. Daniel Wong's not been able to last more than a couple of minutes after half-time here. So Spirit looking good. Jordan Perez got the goal just before the break. He's first for the club in competitive football. Such a clever free kick as well. Daniel Nizic had decided 6 in the wall was the way to go. So rather than try and beat that, he just went around it. Beat Nizic at his nominal near post. Set pieces have not really been the way for goal for Spirit over the last season or so, but it seems to be another little bow they're adding to their armoury. Freddie Smith trying to play that one forward for Zain Alawali, overhitting it a little. But a Rice smile as he retreats to his position. Back three of Spirit have looked pretty solid again today. Throw in from Perez, and Kubo, well, thought he should have had the throw going his way. I'll get it out eventually. Sharks deciding to go long. A first touch for Sullivan since coming on. He's a little overzealous in his attempts to win it back. Simon Nicholas marshalling him well. Perez playing it inside. There's a chance for Spirit to get forward here. So Ahmed sweeps it up. Katsuta with his first touch since coming on. Oh, there's a chance to get over the top here. It was well read by Nicholas. Pasewski had come out if McDonald had been able to see the routes further infield. There might have been a chance. Ahmed. For Ghana and McDonald. And Grozos, who really needs to take this game by the scruff of the neck if Sutherland are to find their way back into it. Seeing more possession at the start of this second half, which is the first promising sign for Steve Zorich. He wants to sit in a little more advanced areas. Ahmed. Really is a midfielder by trade, but has started this season in Sutherland's backline to give them some ball-playing ability. They've turned it over here, and a Fuka firing on Nizic's net. Managed to hold on to that one, the Sutherland skipper. Took him a couple of bites. He's got a clear view at it. Might have just swelled at him a little as it made its way towards him. And again, Sutherland getting into trouble playing out of their own half. Perez wins his side of the attacking throw. Had that remarkable run at the start of the season, Spirit, when they didn't concede for nearly 500 minutes. They do boast the stingiest defence in the competition, along with Manly United at this early stage in the season. Just 5 goals let in over 7.5 games of football. Very impressive record. And comparing that to what teams have done in recent history, only Manly United back in 2022 have managed to go an entire season at that sort of rate. So they just 23 goals across their 22 regular season campaign. That was only 22 games. More attacking to do here as Perez aims for Pasewski. Headed clear by Tresoglovic, and then sliding in was Ghana. Still they can't get out the Sharks. Okubo, top of the box. It was a solid strike, but pressure meant that there was only one route to goal, and that meant Nizic was able to anticipate and position himself well. Rare error from his perspective, being beaten at his near post for the goal just before half-time. Another turnover from Sutherland. Lucevic lets fly. Always curling wide of Nizic's post, and now Sutherland trying to get things started quickly. 10 minutes into the second half. Changes for Steven Zoric in terms of personnel and their system, but still struggling to find a way back into this game. Might Richard Shueke provide it for them here. Darting inside on his right. And strike without real venom, which Mark saw all the way. Game looks to be travelling in one direction. We've still got more than half an hour to play. The Spirit are looking as though their run of unbeaten fixtures at home is going to go on. Afuka bearing down on goal. Trying to dance past Garner. He just got a touch, and that forced him a little wider. Allowed Nizic to field. Long-time Sydney United goalkeeper. Part of their run all the way to the Australia Cup final. Back in 2022, it was the year Spirit won the Cup with Nizic in goal for Sydney United. So he hasn't got a great record against them. Continued here again today, not without lack of trying. He made a couple of big saves early in the first half. That's notable from Frankie Lucevic, who made an endeavour to get deep into the penalty box, just not able to slip it past the big frame of the Sutherland Sharks goalkeeper. Grozos. Katsuta, we've already talked about his fond memories at this ground. We pop up and make a few new memories this afternoon. Not looking likely at the minute. Ahmed's header didn't have power to get beyond Akubo, so Spirit can set up for another attack. Smith. He's looking the direct option. It's going to ask quite a bit of Takumi Afuka, but he did well to keep it in play. Now to the goal scorer, Perez. Darting to the byline. Again, the Sharks were aware of the danger, but all Lockie McDonald can do is turn it behind for a corner. Spirit still looking for their first league victory against Sutherland. It's ball steering in the correct direction for them at the minute. Spirit look as though they're just about to ready their first substitution of the afternoon. Meantime, Lucevic is over to whip in this corner kick. Pasewski got there. Perez off the post. Took a deflection, did it? No. And he might well have had a double, the Spirit left back. It was an awkward one. It spun to him awkwardly. Pasewski did so well to rise well above any of the Sutherland defence from the initial corner. The Sharks survive another scare. They've just looked comfortable, the hosts. They've not been asked anything. They've been too desperate to defend. The Sharks will be a little disappointed with what they've been able to put together in an attacking sense. Particularly after they were so bright against Rockdale a couple of weekends ago and managing to get off the shoulder. Now Spirit are sitting a little deeper than Rockdale did that day, but they've not been able to get anything going really through Grozos, who's been tightly marked. He and Simon Nicholas getting into a wrestling match off the ball. Just saw them come into frame there as that ball was played out. Nicholas had hold of him for a good 10 yards before he'd reached that point. Now Sullivan, out of position himself today as a centre forward. I wonder when the last time he was deployed there was. One of the Sharks players with a fair share of A-League men's experience. Just taking their roster to another level in 2025. Nizic for Moric. Now Tresoglovic is forced to send it back from whence it came. And now the press activated by Spirit. Tresoglovic smart enough to win his side of throw. All the worry about Sutherland and some of their performances recently. The performance today is heading that direction. Jacob Tresoglovic has been a bright spot along with Shueke. over the past month or so. But together they're hurrying and hustling Chidiac to win the ball back off him. Throw goes Spirit's way though, and now the substitution will be made. So another special moment. Sutherland just confirming who Austin Oates is about to come on for here. It's looking like the end of Jake Chidiac's day. It is. He gets a good hand. See if he can make the influence, the Spirit youngster. Called up from the 20th today, Austin Oates. Side of one another attacking corner here. Just his second appearance for the senior side. Austin Oates came off the bench in that convincing 4-0 victory against Blacktown a few weeks ago. Been ever present in that position since. It's just his second taste of playing time. First in senior football at Christie Park, which is always a nice moment for a player. Shueke was just threatening to make something of that ball. And then foul Sutherland. You could hear the groans of frustration from the players. Thought it was a little soft through midfield. First of the subs used for Spirit. They've got Marco Arambasic, Kaya Williams, the centre back, Grant Cornwell, another one of those, and Harry Keys available for them as well today. Should David Perkovic look to just refresh things as we get into the closing stages of this one. For Sutherland, the experience of Jordan Roberts is still there. Dylan Susevic is another attacking option. Lachlan Fields, who would be on debut for the club today if he's called upon. Press comes from Spirit, but the Sharks, for a rare time this afternoon, have managed to play through it. Skataris and Grozos. Now it's McDonald who's playing further forward in a wing-back role and rather aimless pass forwards. Just to the frustration of Steve Zorich, who's voiced his displeasure at the attacking play of his side more than once this afternoon. Chris Marks can take all the time he wants. Perez, whose goal separates the two sides, taking the throw. Looking for Corey Kavanagh, whose touch just betrayed him at the vital moment. It's led well from midfield today. Probably drifted to the periphery a little in this second half, but still a winning runner. And playing as the anchor and the leader of this side at just 24 years of age is quite something. Particularly given he's not one who's come through any A-League academies. He's been with Spirit the whole way. As is Austin Oates. But nicked off him there. Only cleared as far as Lucevic. Smith. That's a good ball for Kavanagh. That's made the third man run. He just knocks it back for Alawalia. And Lucevic under stern attention from Kotaro Katsuta. Seeing his first piece of action today, the Japanese midfielder, since his red card against Sydney Olympic. Former Mount Druitt Town man. Alawalia driving it deep. Kubo down. Will Afuka get there? Eventually Ahmed got something on it. Oh, and there's a big appeal for a handball against Matt Morich. Nothing doing, says the referee. Spirit step in. Brady Smith rides one challenge. And then Skatadis taken down late by the retreating Smith. And now everyone's up and about around the technical areas. The argument from the refereeing side is that Morich played the ball off his arm rather than using his arm to control. Either way, a little fortunate there. That miscue could have cost Sutherland dearly. Hasn't done so. And so the advantage is still just the goal to nil for Spirit. Jordan Perez's free kick just before half-time. Katsuta running into a dead end, but managing to put enough pressure on to win his side the attacking throw. Sullivan was literally scrapping with Simon Nicholas for that football. He's got so much size, Nick Sullivan, and he's used it well there. Wasn't going to give up what looked like a lost cause. Skatadis. A little heavy from McDonald, the return ball. Kubo for Afuka. Now they can open up the field if Austin Oates can get it out of his feet. Finds Smith. Alawalia and Lucevic just calming things again for Spirit. Moment of frustration that could have led to some indiscipline, that hasn't done so. There's a loose turnover from Pasevsky. Bergovic calls for his side to recover. Skatadis running on tired legs. Grozos with so many yellow shirts ahead of him, it was always going to be a big ask. A bit of a breeze picking up here at Christie Park. It's flowing from right to left, and you just saw the ball hold up in it a little there. Ahmed with the pressing ball. Now it's the Sharks' turn to just put their foot on it and try and build some sustained possession as they chase this game. Quarter of it left to go. Grozos, who stayed down after the challenge of Kavanagh. And now with the ball about to travel out of play by its own accord, referee Crawford's happy to come over and have a look at Peter Grozos, who is not in a good way. It's a groan of pain, holding the back of a knee, and this is really not looking good for Sutherland. Another creative player. He's down, grasping at a knee and having it looked at by the physio. Let's hope this is not the worst news for Peter Grozos. Players worried about his well-being, stopping for almost exactly as we did in the first half, an impromptu cooling break. This looks to be rather more concerned about the welfare of Peter Grozos. Still that left knee being tested out by the physio. Already lost Costa Petratos to an ACL. Hoping it's not anything like that level of injury, but ever a knee is being tested out, it's not a good sign. Reminder that we're just about to have kickoff out at Marconi between the Stallions and Western Sydney Wanderers. Marconi chasing Spirit in second place at the moment. Spirit the only unbeaten side left in this competition, alongside the Stallions. On the live ladder, they got sitting at 6 points just after kickoff at Marconi. The other game tonight, St George City hosting St George FC in the St George Derby. Probably the newest of the rivalries in the NPL, but one that has had its level of feeling, one that Peter Grozos was part of a year ago. But he is up gingerly to his feet, which is a good sign. But I think that's going to be the end of his afternoon. Let's hope it's nothing more than a week or two out. This is really not good. Need to be supported off. Oh, with the help of the Spirit physio as well. Peter Grozos and a bit of sportsmanship from Zane Alawalia, but no player ever likes to see an opposition team member go off like this. So the end of the road for Peter Grozos this afternoon. It's actually going to be a double change. Jakub Trosoglovic making his way from the field as well. Hopefully under his own steam. Lachlan Fields gets a debut for the Sutherland Sharks in the heart of their defence. And the first touch in Sutherland colours. The man who's signed from the Melbourne Knights in the off-season was one of their dual players of the year in 2024. That's a dangerous bully behind. A chance here for Sutherland, but the offside flag is up against Lachlan McDonald, so it won't count. Just a warning shot fired out to the break for Spirit, and a reminder that their concentration must be at its sharpest. Unless they concede from a sloppy moment like that. Thankfully, from their point of view, it's a fairly clear straying offside. Dylan Susovic is the man who's been brought on for Grozos. Could play that similar role. Slightly different player. First to operate from wide positions, but it's certainly a threat to get in on goal. It's good timing for him to take in the action, albeit in what seemed to be unfortunate circumstances. The Sharks must place the well-being of their star midfielder to the back of their lines, at the back of their minds at the moment as they try and chase this game. Katsuta nicking it off his Japanese counterpart and then turning it over again. Iwakubo with another chance to stride forward. Afuka. Or between the legs of his opponent. Kavanagh. Pasevsky on for Brady Smith. Now Alawalia. Provided a couple of dangerous crosses in the first half. This one doesn't pick out a player in yellow. Fields has got a bit to try and fight his way out of. Austin Oates bringing applause with his energy. Oates did well to evade the challenge, but the pass was wanting. Bit of play from Skataris, and then Moric won it back to keep the attack alive. Shueki trying to stretch his legs, really for the first time in the second half. Pasevsky across to cover. Now he waits for support. It arrives in the form of Skataris. He'll line up, and Marks could only beat it into a dangerous area. Smith manages to clean up the scraps. Still a chance for Sutherland to continue their attacking raid. Skataris. Bright spot for Sutherland this evening in what has otherwise been a disappointing night. Moric could still change that narrative. Sullivan. Fields. Oh, what a debut that would have been. Could have got a shot away there. Ball knocked out of play. Steve Zorich still voicing his frustrations, but his team have looked brighter since that little stoppage 5 minutes ago. Ahmed for McDonald. Author of the Knights alumni in this Shark side. Ball knocked to the right. Skataris. Kavanagh held him up initially. Susovic takes up the attack. It's still Dylan Susovic for Sutherland. There was a last-minute block in there. I think it might have been Kavanagh who recovered. But just a couple of little shots across the bow of Chris Marks and Spirit's defence. And so Mark says, don't want this ball down my end. You go and chase it, Kubo. He did brilliantly. So he got players central. Lays it back for Kavanagh. Barker College product. Nicholas. Fuka loves those little flicks around the corner, but Akubo was out-muscled there by Mohamed. Perez happy to see the ball out for another throw. Well, Spirit have been back to close to their best today. Haven't quite had the cutting edge of the opening few rounds in the final third, but they've dominated the flow of this game in its majority. A lot of situations for Sutherland like this where they've been trying to play out with very little support for the front player. At the moment it's Nick Sullivan. Start of the night it was Richard Shueke, who's now playing through midfield. Spirit content to just eat a little bit of extra time off the clock in these restarts now. Marks with too much on his ball forward. Catching practice for Daniel Nizic. One of the games we got coming up as well. We're giving you those games coming up tonight. Sunday afternoon, Blacktown City versus Manly United at 3 o'clock, along with RPL Leichhardt against Rockdale. And Wollongong Wolves against Sydney United 58. Kubo is off the shoulder again. He's got Lucevic in support. Thought about going to ground, then kept his feet, and the deflection off Moric, who's already had a handball shout against him, turned down by the referee. Made sure to keep his arms right out of the way there. Comes off his backside and behind for a corner. Last of those fixtures tomorrow, Sydney FC taking on Mount Druitt Town Rangers. Again, that will have some implications for the relegation battle down the bottom. Neither of these sides are looking down there at the moment. Greg Cornwall is being readied by Spirit. You think he might be brought on in the closing stages just to add a little bit of steel to the heart of Spirit's defence. I'd love a second goal to defend as Perez lobs it deep. I think it was Brady Smith who got up at the back post. Header was always rising. A wry smile as he returns to his position. Would have been pretty spectacular had he been able to keep that on target. Susovic. Can he get Sutherland going forward? Sullivan did well to make something of it. And McDonald still full of running down the right. Cross is not bad. Shueke! Out of nothing! Sutherland get their equaliser. A second senior goal for Richard Shueke that might have snatched a point for Sutherland. "10 minutes, broken in concentration for Spirit, and they are punished. Made to pay full price by Richard Shueke, who started up front tonight, has been moved into midfield and gets his goal anyway. Beautifully laid on by Lachlan McDonald. So tireless in his efforts down the right. And Spirit, who have never beaten Sutherland in league football, at risk of having what looked like a comfortable victory snatched away from them here. Kubo still of the thought he can steal all 3 points. Too strong initially for Ahmed. Haven't we got some jeopardy in this game now? And Kavanagh's just booted it out of play. This game was just floating along, looking as though Spirit were content with the goal and happy to see out what looked like a comfortable victory. The Sharks had other ideas. And now those chances Spirit turned up early in the game suddenly seem to matter just that bit more. Shueke. This kid is so full of confidence and he's just slipped past two. Shueke again. Marks. It was for the cameras, but The run certainly wasn't. And this Sutherland product, there's not much known about him coming into the season. He was a signing from the MacArthur Rams late last season. And now he's got 2 goals in his last 3 starts. So handy given the state of Sutherland's front line at the moment. And without many chances tonight, they've managed to take the one that has come their way off the head of Richard Schueke. Still it's kept alive by the Sharks. Garner heads forward. Sutherland have made a habit of this over the last couple of seasons. The character in surviving year after year in this competition without being one of its top performers was nicking these goals in games when they had been outplayed for long periods. It's not been the chosen direction for them in 2025, but that handy little knack they've picked up over the last couple of seasons has come back to help them here and to hurt Spirit. Would still be unbeaten, but that buffer at the top might just be cut a little if they can't find another goal. It's a silly foul really from Mohamed. There was no need. He was ahead of Akubo. And the planned substitution of Grant Cornwall is going to be made in any case here. Jordan Perez, the goal scorer, being removed. So Cornwall will slot in amongst the middle of the back 3 with Simon Nicholas going to left wing back. Both goals eerily similar in their construction. Ball in from Kavanagh. Half away by Lockie Fields. Lobbed back up in the air by Alawalia. Taken up by Lucevic. Trying to measure something without an awareness of what was behind him. McDonald's only choice was to nod it behind for a corner. Spirit suddenly urgent. Floating along no longer. Will feel 2 points lost if they're not able to reclaim the lead here. Once again, Sutherland giving headaches to the top teams, although Grant Cornwall's first touch was on target. Nizic saw it all the way. Skataris. And now the referee has asked to stop play because there's a Spirit player, which had escaped all of our attention, who is still down behind play, almost in the Sutherland Sharks goal. Just on the pitch, and Daniel Nizic is saying, can we just get him off and get on with the game? Such as the Sharks thought that they've got the bit between their teeth. Nonetheless, play is stopped. Spirit, who had to save a point themselves here a couple of weeks ago against Sydney United 58, finding themselves in quite the opposite situation tonight. Because the test is coming for Spirit. I mentioned it at the top of the broadcast. Very tricky 3 weeks coming up. They face Rockdale at Illingdon Sports Centre next Sunday for hosting Marconi here in what will almost inevitably be a 1 versus 2 clash. Marker in the ground for early season premiership contention. And then they travel away. A very tricky trip to Belmore to take on Sydney Olympic. Well, they've had a good record. Jamie Pasewski's back to his feet. Nonetheless, Sydney Olympic very much the Rocks or Diamonds team of the competition at the moment. Who knows which edition or which version of them will turn up at the moment. As for Sutherland, more chances. Blacktown City at Landon Stadium is never an easy trip. That's what they've got next Saturday night, before going down to Wollongong to face the Wolves and then returning home finally to Seymour Shore to take on St George City in round 10. Oh, and they've got to be very careful there. It was all tangled up, Katara Katsuta, and still they are with Brady Smith. Might have just been looking to make sure that Sutherland couldn't take the free kick quickly. Shueki knocking it over the top. Cornwall over in cover, and Mark's happy to clear his danger. Kubo did very well to get his head on that. Fuka less so to knock it over the head of Simon Nicholas, who was rushing forward. Stevens, there is a real feel from the Sharks team. They can nick all 3 points here. Still no team has beaten Spirit FC this season. As we enter the third month of 2025 next weekend, can Sutherland muddy that record? Played wide by Susevic. McDonald, who provided the assist for the goal, trying to do so again. Pasewski is back up from his injury down the other end there to clear. Skatadis. Just a little heavy with that ball through. Kaya Williams is being readied by Spirit FC as well. Just a couple of appearances, the 19-year-old. Debuted late last season. Takes the spot of Zain Alawali. He's got through a lot of work down the right tonight. Punch of the dugout in frustration, understandably so. This felt like Spirit's game to take, and they've not been able to grasp it. Poor turnover from McDonald, of all people. Kavanagh, so good at winning the ball back in high positions like that. The ball didn't match that bit of quality, though. Austin Oates was lurking, but would have taken a superhuman effort to make it. Never mind. Managing to steer it back on target. Reminder as well, the Football New South Wales page carrying a match of the round tonight. St George City hosting St George FC out at Penshurst Park. Reminder to stay with us for that one after this, or indeed if you're a Spirit fan, over and have a look at what's happening over at Marconi between they and the Western Sydney Wanderers. Got to be very careful they don't lose all 3 points here. McDonald, Smith over to make sure it didn't develop any further. Wind might be coming in to whisk away Spirit's hopes of a victory here. Sutherland have had the upper hand, really, since they went level. As that ball comes in from Skatadis, easily caught by Marks. Be a braver observer than I to try and pick a winner from here. I feel it might not be the end of the scoring. This competition so often throws up late goals that change games and narratives and courses of seasons. Win here for Spirit, you feel, could be another defining chapter in their chase for a premiership as Williams slides away. The challenge was loose from Lachlan Fields. Williams' fresh legs have got Spirit another chance from a set piece. In the shadows of the sand here at Christie Park, Frankie Lucevic is over. Plenty of Spirit bodies to aim for. Oh, and it hit the chest of Yua Kubo. And Lucevic stretching for it into the challenge with Katsuta. Hoisted forward by Nicholas. Cornwall got his head to it. And Fields clears the free kick that he won. And Shueki was so close to timing his run. But he did step a second too early. The argument from the Sutherland players is that he was in his own half. Shueki's picked up a booking for his trouble. Not sure whether it was for the protest or kicking the ball away afterwards. That's all trivial now. Sutherland feel Spirit have had a let-off. It'll hurt even more if they can find their second goal here. Afuka ducking inside. Some misplaced parks from Lucevic. We're going to have 5 minutes added on at the end of this second half. Oates. And Kyle Williams' ball had a bit too much on it. Still, Shueki's continuing his conversation now with the fourth official on the near side. His goal brought Sutherland level. Susevic, left-footed, playing off the right. Sutherland for Fields. Sullivan, I should say. Shueki hurried and hassled by Williams. The two youngsters going at it right under the nose of the fourth official in the two technical areas. Assistant gave it one way, the referee had a better view and gave it to Spirit. This game, which was lacking feeling for so long, a real desperation about it in the closing stages. Garner won the header, but it was only as far as Nicholas. Afuka, been waiting for his moment tonight. Is this it? Statuesque on the edge of the area. Kavanagh. Out for Nicholas, and it thumps across Susevic, who was over to cover. Behind for another Spirit corner. I've had a mozza of them in this second half. Lucevic. Sutherland have looked a bit loose in these situations, and the header from Pasewski, not for the first time tonight, doesn't find the target. Time running short for both teams. Into the 3rd minute of the 5 allotted in stoppage time at the end of this round 8 encounter. Not a game that will define either team's season, but certainly will give Sutherland another helping of hope that they can really push on and search for finals football in 2025, taking a point off the league leaders at their home ground. For Spirit, another win would give another gust to their challenge for the premiership, but we're going to be careful they don't lose it all here. There's been a couple of sloppy challenges like that creeping into their game. Susevic wants to keep it going, but it was a little over-desperate, a little overzealous. Not a decision endorsed by his coach. Kubo, he always manages to compete for those balls forward. So athletic. Wraps off his heels with the ball forward from Kavanagh. Thankfully for Spirit, deflected to their advantage. Late from Sullivan. Play on because Oates has knocked it forward for Afuka. Can Afuka get to the byline? He didn't, but Garner's block means another Spirit corner from the far side. Lucevic, who's been in the wars tonight, he's really has been battered and bruised. The attention he's received in midfield. Already got that left knee strapped from sliding on the AstroTurf in the first half. It's a stooping header from Pasewski again, which just lobbed up for Nizic. Fires his team forward, hit the turf as he released it. Katsuta, he's got fresh legs. He's searching for the hard running of Shueki, but even he couldn't reach that. Couple of cries of encouragement, but they sound in vain now. It's going to be a second straight draw at home for Spirit. Still Sutherland Not beaten by this opposition in league football. Not quite the 3-1 win of a year ago, but a point which will buoy them somewhat given how the first hour of this game unfolded. And the chances that Spirit turned up in the first half. Those have come back to bite them. Oh, it's just unsure as that ball is played towards him. Not able to get a knock on it. Cornwall read it better than Sullivan, although his header was only as far as Susovic. Good fight from Kavanagh to get back goal side. So Sutherland are forced to move it left and turn it over. Williams sloppy with his pass. Panic setting in everywhere. And for Spirit, it'll feel like 2 points drop. For Sutherland, they will feel it could have been so much more. Richard Schueke getting the equaliser, his second goal in senior football, just after the hour mark, which turned a game which looked as though it had all been flowing in the host's favour. It wasn't to be. And although Jordan Perez did manage to get the goal just before half-time, it's the chances turned up earlier that will be the ones they feel have cost them come the end of the day. Our thoughts with Peter Grozos, who came off towards the end of that second half with a suspected knee injury. Let's hope the diagnosis is a positive one in the week. But it's Alex Molchanov signing off here from Christie Park. What was an engaging battle in the second half, and Sutherland has managed to come away with a point. It's finished NWS Spirit FC 1, Sutherland Sharks 1.